A little while ago, we released a video detailing the first games of some of the most famous and celebrated game designers in the world. It was a fascinating look into the humble and occasionally not so humble beginnings of some of the industry's brightest minds, whose hard work has resulted in hours of high-quality gaming for millions around the world. From Metal Gear Solid creator Hideo Kojima to David Jones, the man behind Grand Theft Auto, everyone had to start somewhere. We had a delightful time digging through the annals of gaming history to find the titles that helped to propel them to greatness. So much so, in fact, that we're doing it again right now. Luckily, there are loads of talented game development icons out there, and we're here to show you the results of their very earliest dalliances into the industry that they would all eventually influence so much. I'm Ben from TripleJump, and here are 10 more games that gave industry titans their start. Number 10. Ken Levine, Thief: The Dark Project. New York-born developer Ken Levine has a very impressive list of gaming credits. He's most well known as the daddy of the BioShock series, leading development on the aquatic RPG FPS hybrid and its airborne successor BioShock Infinite. Clearly a dab hand at creating tense, spooky atmospheres and conceiving of genre-melding gameplay styles, Mr. Levine has certainly secured himself a spot in the hallowed halls of game development fame. The thing is, his first video game credit is pretty auspicious too. Levine broke into the industry with Looking Glass Games, working on the story and design of 1998's Thief: The Dark Project. This shadowy stealth 'em-up introduced protagonist Garrett as he explores a medieval fantasy city in an attempt to get his sneaky hands on all of the shiny things and save the day while he's at it. Just a normal Wednesday then. Praised for being hugely suspenseful and immersive, Thief: The Dark Project definitely showed off Levine's design philosophies early in his career. After cutting his teeth with Thief, his very next gaming credit was as lead designer for the passionately heralded space horror classic System Shock 2. Definitely a very talented and influential industry figure, but very obsessed with trapping players in dark, isolated and nightmarish situations. We do love him for it though. Number 9. Keiichiro Toyama, Snatcher. Even if you haven't heard of Japanese game designer Keiichiro Toyama, there's a very good chance he's either directly or indirectly put the willies up you at least once or twice. Born in 1970, this master of suspense joined Konami after finishing university in 1994. It was here that he unleashed his most famous creation upon the world, Silent Hill, and terrified unsuspecting gamers the world over with foggy suspense and disturbing imagery. Leaving Team Silent soon after, Toyama went on to join Japan's studio, working on the equally spooky Siren series and the charmingly floaty Gravity Rush games. That's quite the repertoire, and his first foray into development was a bit of a cult classic too. Toyama's first gaming job was as a character designer on the North America and Europe-only Mega CD version of Snatcher. This Hideo Kojima-developed graphic adventure game had a cyberpunk setting and a major emphasis on story. Snatcher sold poorly, but those in the know fell in love with its mature themes and stylish presentation. Kojima was undoubtedly the driving force, but a young Toyama definitely played a part in making this game something of a holy grail for Western Mega CD collectors, and used his experience on Snatcher to snatch the hearts of gamers the world over with his subsequent works. Number 8. David Cage, Omicron: The Nomad Soul. David de Grottola is better known in gaming circles by his pseudonym David Cage. Revered for his dramatic, story-driven games that regularly challenge players with difficult choices, this French gaming icon is the founder of Quantic Dream. Over the years, the studio has been responsible for the likes of Fahrenheit, Heavy Rain, Beyond Two Souls, and Detroit Become Human. However, Cage's first game was Omicron: The Nomad Soul, released for Windows in 1999 and the Dreamcast in 2000. This imaginative title is set in the futuristic city of Omicron, and attempts to submerge the player directly into the story with a dimension-hopping, body-jumping premise. Using supernatural powers, the player must investigate a spate of suspicious killings taking place in Omicron and uncover a deeper plot involving demons, shady government agencies, and secret religious orders. Cage also got legendary musician David Bowie on board too, with the pop icon playing a pirate named Boz. This isn't Cage's only musical link. Before working in programming, the multi-talented Frenchman worked in the industry as a composer. His musical credits include the 1995 platformer Cheese Catastrophe starring Speedy Gonzales. How he made the step from that to having his own game studio and getting David Bowie to star in his first game, we're not quite sure. We're glad it happened though. Number 7. Yu Suzuki, Champion Boxing. Yu Suzuki's resume reads like a greatest hit of Sega arcade and console classics. Outrun, Afterburner, Daytona USA, heck even Shenmue was conceived by this prolific gaming icon. Not content with just making games, Suzuki was also heavily involved with the hardware that they were being played on. He led development on various Sega arcade models and was also involved in the creation of the Dreamcast. It's fair to say he's a pretty big deal. Before all this, he worked on Champion Boxing. Released for Sega's lesser-known first home console, the SG-1000, this colourful sports title enables 1 or 2 players to live out their in-ring fantasies in picturesque early 2D. There's even a little animated crowd and everything. The game eventually saw an arcade release in Japan and Europe, giving Suzuki his first taste of arcade success, with many more successes to come. Suzuki wouldn't return to the fighting genre until 1993, when he was in charge of the team that brought us Virtua Fighter. Though it appears simplistic by today's standards, Virtua Fighter was the first arcade fighting game to use 3D graphics and spawned a long-running series whose 5th mainline entry was released in 2021. From humble 2D SG-1000 boxing to one of the longest-running and technically proficient fighting franchises around today, now that's a Cinderella story. Number 6. Tomonobu Itagaki, Tecmo Super Bowl. Tomonobu Itagaki is a shades indoors kinda guy. He's also known in gaming circles as the creator of the Dead or Alive franchise and is responsible for reviving the Ninja Gaiden series with 2004's excellent Xbox iteration. Mostly associated with Tecmo, Itagaki also created Devil's Third with Valhalla Game Studio and more recently formed another studio known as Apex Games. He's also known for some controversial statements and has been known to criticize the likes of Heavenly Sword, Metal Gear Solid and Final Fantasy in the past. Oh wait, I get it. The shades are to hide his identity from angry fan bases. That's very clever. Despite having a career filled with ninjas, demons and volleyball, Itagaki's gaming breakthrough came with the 1991 SNES version of Tecmo Super Bowl. This 16-bit American football simulator gave sports fans the chance to take part in a simplified version of America's favorite sport, selecting offensive and defensive plays and taking direct control of the players as they run for the touchline. His superiors were impressed with his work, and Itagaki rose through the Tecmo ranks steadily in the following years, eventually becoming the head of Team Ninja in 2001. The rest is spectacularly violent history. Number 5. Richard Garriott, Akalabeth World of Doom. Richard Garriott, or Richard Allen Garriott de Caillou to give him his very impressive full name, is an American game developer and entrepreneur of some repute. Best known for the hugely influential Ultima RPG series, Garriott, known to many as Lord British, did pretty well for himself during his game development career, earning enough money to literally fly into space in 2008 as a self-funded tourist. Back in his pre-astronaut days, Lord British was a young man obsessed with Dungeons and Dragons and was driven to create his own interactive video game-style dungeon delving title. This resulted in Akalabeth World of Doom, which was released in 1979 for the Apple II. In the game, the player receives quests from a self-referential character named Lord British to kill monsters in an underground labyrinth and includes a simple overworld and RPG elements like purchasing equipment and stat management. Frequent aspects of the Ultima series, like first-person dungeon exploration and requiring food to keep your character alive, were born in Akalabeth World of Doom, which is now recognized as one of the earliest examples of the RPG video game genre. Not bad for a hobby project. The thing that I'm most shaken up by, though, is finding out that Lord British is actually American. My stiff upper lip has been dramatically softened. Number 4. Swery, Kizuna Encounter Super Tag Battle. Eccentric game developer and owl enthusiast Hidetaka Suehiro, better known as Swery or Swery65, is responsible for Deadly Premonition. This open-world survival horror is practically the epitome of a cult classic, hugely dividing critics with its clunky graphics and clumsy combat juxtaposed with a unique atmosphere and irresistibly fascinating premise and characters. The game received an equally bonkers sequel in 2020, created by Swery's studio White Owls Inc. Just as divisive and offbeat as its predecessor, this follow-up further cemented Swery's status as a cult gaming icon. Swery initially worked for Japanese fighting game giant SNK, and his first credited work was as a writer on the 2D Neo Geo fighter Kizuna Encounter Super Tag Battle. Mechanically similar to SNK's Fatal Fury series, Kizuna Encounter features a cool, grungy, mean streets vibe and a roster of eye-catching characters armed with a variety of flashy fighting styles. Also featuring the tag team mechanic alluded to in the title, Kizuna Encounter Super Tag Battle provided a stylish alternative to Fatal Fury, giving SNK fighting game fans yet more devastating combos and special moves to learn. Very little in the way of owls though. That obsession must have come later. Number 3. Suda51, Superfire Pro Wrestling 3 Final Bout. Continuing the theme of eccentric Japanese developers with wacky nicknames, Goichi Suda, better known as Suda51, is something of an icon to fans of quirky cult violence. He has an extensive list of gaming credits, including the cheeky Lollipop Chainsaw and the audacious Shadows of the Damned, but arguably his most prominent creation is the No More Heroes franchise. In this cult classic series, players must guide cel-shaded otaku Travis Touchdown through the ranks of a guild of assassins, all while he does unspeakable things to his lightsaber. In the game, Travis is shown to be a fan of wrestling, which leads me nicely to Suda51's first gaming credit. Superfire Pro Wrestling 3 Final Bout was released for the SNES in 1993. The game features classic 2D wrestling action and a stonking roster of 56 playable characters, including licensed Japanese grapplers and close approximations of Western wrestling stars like Hulk Hogan, The Ultimate Warrior, and the Road Warriors. It also apparently provided an extremely tough challenge, with an easier version eventually being released to placate fans who couldn't hack the difficulty. This easier version was somewhat mockingly called Superfire Pro Wrestling 3 Easy Type and came with a free feeling of gamer shame, as purchasing it was basically admitting defeat. I suppose it would have got more people to buy it twice though. Maybe a money-spinning idea for From Software there. Anyway. Number 2. Warren Spector, Ultima 6 The False Prophet. Another American game developer with an early love of tabletop role-playing games, Warren Spector was the director of the original Deus Ex. Regarded as one of the best games ever made, Deus Ex was massively influential and made huge steps in immersive adult storytelling and the successful combination of FPS, role-playing, and adventure game styles. As if that wasn't enough to make Spector a verified industry legend, he was also involved with the likes of Thief: The Dark Project and System Shock, resulting in a very nice portfolio. His first bite of the game development apple came with the Ultima series. Working as a producer and writer on 1990's Ultima 6 The False Prophet, Spector played a massive part in bringing another huge RPG world to life, using his expertise in creating tabletop RPG systems to great effect in the digital world. Ultima 6 developed the venerable series by dropping fans into the biggest world yet, presenting everything in a consistent scale for the first time and adding in crafting mechanics. The storyline sees the player initially attempting to save the land from a force of gargoyles, but eventually revelations result in a dramatic twist and a quest for peace with the stony interlopers instead. It's very grand and epic, and oh look, it's Lord British again. Number 1. Hironobu Sakaguchi, The Death Trap. If you're a fan of Japanese role-playing games, you might have heard of Hironobu Sakaguchi. This famed developer was hired by Square while he was still in university and was responsible for the company's most famous franchise, Final Fantasy, which is one of gaming's most iconic and influential series. Sakaguchi was also responsible for the likes of NES RPG classic Chrono Trigger and the Xbox 360 exclusive RPG Lost Odyssey, which he created after leaving Square Enix to form Mistwalker. The man is synonymous with RPG stories that span multiple fantastical continents, and his games have provided fans with hours upon hours of gameplay over the years, but it all started with a humble text adventure called The Death Trap. Created by Sakaguchi while Square was still just the software branch of a powerline manufacturing firm, The Death Trap required players to input simple commands to interact with the environment and progress through the game. The Death Trap story is accompanied by still illustrations and follows an agent as he infiltrates a mysterious African nation to stop a chemical weapons plot. The game actually received a follow-up called Will: The Death Trap 2 in 1985, meaning that Mr. Sakaguchi had experience with sequels very early in his gaming career. It's a concept that he would later become very familiar with indeed.